Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brooke Savage. All Things Equal, the life and trials of Ruth Bader Ginsburg is coming to the Dr. Phillips Center this Sunday. Michelle Azar plays RBG herself in the show. She is here to tell us all about it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Brooke. It's so nice to be here.
So first off, I usually start off with where are you from and how did you get into acting?
Okay. And it was very funny to see the clips. I haven't ever actually seen the real show or me in the show. So that was alarming. I'm from Chicago originally. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. And I always say that I just was always into acting. Like, my mom was a music teacher, and at 3 years old, somebody didn't know the lyrics, and I'd already been there for many years. So, since two. So I got up and sang, and I just knew that that was my place on the stage. It felt really right. And then I did some professional theater already in high school. And then when it came time for college, I went to NYU. And I'm actually in New York right now for rehearsal again. And so once I was here in New York, I really felt like, oh yeah, I'm set. I'm settled in what I'm called to do. So that's how it started.
Very interesting. What made you want to audition for All Things Equal?
Well, I live in Los Angeles now, and I do a lot of TV and film. But my manager, who I've known since I was a kid, um, kid meaning like 20 years old in New York, she saw the submission, the breakdown. It's called, like casting sends out a note. We're looking for an actor to do this, this, or this, and for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she's like, I just have a feeling about this. And I am embarrassed to say I knew very little about her at the time. I knew the big glasses and the dissents, the words dissent. But then I did this like deep dive when I just was researching her, and the similarities, her family from immigrants, she's first generation on both sides. My parents too. My dad's from Iraq. My mom's from, well, my mom was born in America, but her mom was in a sweatshop in Brooklyn, and just like RBG's mom. So the similarities, and being a Jewish woman who knew she has a brain, but also knew that there was a lot to work against before she could be seen as who she was, all that really got me excited. So I auditioned and I auditioned and I auditioned about 4 times. Oh my God, that's so distracting to see me. um, and then I got the role. And now it's 2 years, I think, full that we've been on and off the road playing this incredible role. And I grow with it, and she grows with me. And with the world changing and being what it is, it's a real honor. It's a complete, indescribable blessing.
Wow, it sounds almost meant to be. What did it mean to you when you, or how did you react when you learned you landed the
Yeah,
role?
I was just, it was one of those things. I had been living with it and her and the process for about a month. So it felt like, those moments in life that, yes, preparation and opportunity match. So it felt aligned. And it also felt like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, how is this possible? How is this possible? And now I never want to not play her in a sense, as well as I just was doing my own piece that I wrote in Boston a couple of days ago. And people that have seen me play RBG, as well as now this other piece called From Baghdad to Brooklyn, which, by the way, I did in Orlando, geez, maybe 6 years ago. They said they see this inner growth. So what it meant to me as a human and as a mom is is sort of the things that we wish for in roles. We can't choose necessarily the roles we play, but I think they do choose us. And being a mom of two young adults moving into the world, females, um, it feels like a huge rite of passage, and me owning my own inner strength in a new way.
That is
So
incredible. Are your daughters proud of you?
I don't know. You should ask them because I would really like to know.
You touched a little bit. You touched a little bit on this. How do you relate to her story?
Uh, you know that what's that called? The myth of unworthiness, Tara Brach. I love all the meditation teachers, or just the syndrome. What's it called? The imposter syndrome. So the learning of it, I was just daunted and I could not remember. It's 90 minutes of me just talking. And but there's some beautiful interstitials of President Clinton or other people that we see, Nino and the people in the corridor. So it doesn't feel like me on stage alone, but um, to your question is it felt like I couldn't do it. I definitely felt like, okay, I actually have to resign after week one. I won't be able to fulfill this. And then when some really close friends and one of my daughters said, what about gratitude? What about accepting imperfection? What about saying that you are an expert in different parts of your life? And our director, Layli Lepard, was really clear what we want the audience to come away with is this feeling state that we can all do, just even the smallest thing. We don't have to be a journalist or an actor or celebrity. We all, it's incumbent upon us, and we all have the power to just see what's some spot that we feel is unequal or antithetical to what it feels good to be human, and speak out calmly, non-violently against that. I think that that's the answer to your question, but I got lost in my story. So help me out if you need me to go back to your actual question.
Yeah, that I do that a lot, I feel like as well. I just meant like her story of like all the challenges she faced.
Oh,
You said how you
can
relate
you
to her
imagine?
parents. Yeah.
Exactly. And being a mom of a young person and going to law school. I mean, as a mom, I barely got out of pajamas all day, as a young mom. So I don't relate. I don't know how she did it. I need like 12 hours of sleep to feel like I'm functioning. And that's what you're seeing today. I did not have enough sleep this week. I was helping my sister with her two kids and my own daughter. I don't know. She's a total superhero hero. So I did. That's why I was saying this. So I did have to live as an as if. What are the spots in my own life that I feel like I could be an expert? And then the other piece that was interesting was I'm a very emotional person, and she learned early on from her mom, who, as you alluded to, got sick right, when RBG was starting junior high school. Her mom was sick, and every day it was about find out what your path is. Do not give way to jealousy or fear or sadness or anger. That was the messages that her mom was giving, and it really stuck. I think in this time frame when she knew her mom was so sick, and her father, there's not much about her father, but her father seemed like he needed some support, and she didn't have a sister anymore. Her sister also died when her sister was 6 and she was only 14 months old. So this sort of stalwart sense is something that I have to work really hard toward. I get very dysregulated, or I did used to, or I get very overwhelmed by emotion. So I think that it actually, a person like me playing this role allows for us, the audience, to humanize this powerhouse in a way that we might not have. So I actually, once I got over the idea of like, oh, I can't cry at every line, I have to keep moving forward. Um, I think it really offers us, the world, a lens to how much she grappled with. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. And I could imagine I would be crying too if I went through all she went through. Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, as you've been playing her, how has she inspired you?
Hmm. You ask such beautiful questions, Brooke. Thank you. She's really inspired me. That line that she says, there's a million books out of just her quotes, but one that says, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way so that others follow." I had never really trusted my voice too much. I've always been a singer, so I know I sing, but this voice to teach and to sort of amass people together. Uh, my husband is a rabbi and a rabbi in Beverly Hills, California. And I think that what playing her has inspired me to do is bring together more programming of our congregants, of the women that I know, even on social media. I won't talk politics, but within this last year, with the violence that we're seeing so much in the Middle East, and my family being very deeply rooted to Israel, and also becoming deep friends with Aziza Hassan, who does the Muslim Jewish conversation. Um, that's a spot where I really wanted to grow and learn how to speak and teach. And so I think that RBG has certainly inspired me to say, okay, let's slow down. There's so many terrible things going on in the world, and we can. It's not for us to change them all, but it is for us to investigate and try to help in some certain way. So, on Sundays we feed thousands and thousands of people who need lunches, and during the week we do all sorts of programming to help understand what are these different things that we're grappling with. So I think she has inspired me to delve more deeply into myself as protester, let's say. But I will give you one story. As we were in Seattle on one of our spots last year, I thought that I had enough strength in me, enough equanimity, let's say, to go into a store that had all just Palestinian um, things in the storefront. And I went in to inquire. I thought I was RBG enough and calm enough. Hey, tell me about like your storefront, and why do you only depict one part of the conversation, the conflict. And I couldn't do it. A few minutes in, I got very emotional, and I said, thank you so much for your time, and I left. So all this to say is I have a lot to learn and still a lot to grow into, and I'm humbled by her every night.
Wow, it really does put things into perspective.
It really does. It really does. And another way that it's inspired me is to um, is to learn more, is to constantly learn more. I'd never felt very politically minded. I was very socially minded, but people are constantly asking me, well, why didn't she step down, or what about reproductive rights right now? And I have to feel like I know what I'm saying. I mean, obviously it's not me, and they know that I didn't make these decisions, and we do grapple with it in the play to the extent that we do. And I've talked to enough people now that were close to her, so I have an informed way to make an answer. But it's caused me to be like, okay, we need to always be learning. We need to never decide that we know everything there is to know about any subject, especially because it's always changing. And one of the things that's incredible about her, even in what she, 87 years old, she was constantly pivoting and constantly allowing the younger generation to teach her. So I feel like
Absolutely.
it's a great lesson.
And what does it mean to you to play a role that many women, well, people in general look up to?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Again, like I grew up with this very loving but domineering father who was like, women are great and they can do everything, but they will get married. So the constant information was, whatever I do is fine, but you'll get married and have kids and that'll be great. So then the idea that I'm on stage saying these words and being a call for not only women, but people of color, all sorts of gender identity, all of us who have ever been marginalized other than just the immediate vision of what a person was, a man was. It's thrilling. It's totally, again, very, very nurturing, self-empowering, and I don't take it lightly. I can't wait to get back out there and see who's in the front row. I love it when young people are in the front row and we ask them to stay backstage afterwards, and I, can talk to them or take pictures or hear who they are. And, I always give everybody my email and hope that they'll write in case they have any questions.
Wow, I love that. That is incredible that you do that.
Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about how the show got started and what people can expect.
Okay. when the pandemic hit, not sure if you remember that, that seems like so many crises ago. When the pandemic hit and Broadway was like, geez, what is there going to be Broadway or people going to come together again? Um, the uh, the playwright Rupert Holmes, Tony Award winner for Mystery of Edwin Drood and many other things, as well as the song If You Like Pina Coladas, which I won't sing right now. He and Scott Stander, the producer of this play, knew each other, and Scott was wanting to write, to commission something, and like a solo piece or just a two-hander, so it was easy to rehearse. And Rupert said he had always wanted to write a play about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So he wrote it, and Scott loved it. And that's how it began, as sort of, again, like, where can we pivot? What needs to happen in order for theater to still be alive? So that's really the kernel of how it began. Rupert is married to a woman who's also a lawyer, and faced a lot of challenge in order to become a lawyer in the world. So I think he was really inspired by Ruth, and he's so elegant in how he's able to combine. Because by now I've read at least many, if not all, of the books about her and that she wrote. Combine her verbatim uh, um, dissents and majority rulings, as well as things just about her life, and combine it in a way that's poetic as well as really accessible. There's a ton of humor in the play, and the other thing that people can expect is to feel like it's a musical. Ruth never sang, but she loved opera and she loved music because it was where her passion got a chance to explore, as opposed to just be what we were talking about before, this real calm through line. So there's a lot of drama in the 90 minutes that happens because of Rupert Holmes's ear as a musician and as a musical theater writer. And then Layli Lepard, our director, was able to sort of use me as this moving. You'll see, it's really a very dynamic set somehow, even though it is just me on stage. It's sort of the magic of theater in that way, but you can expect a lot of feeling of musicality to it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you yourself have been on tour for 2 years performing the show.
Yeah. I'm terrible with numbers, so I keep forgetting exactly how many performances we've done. But we incubated in Florida in St. Petersburg at a beautiful theater, the Free Fall Theater. Huge, huge love and shout out to them if you can ever go see anything there. And then we were in Sag Harbor in the Hamptons for about a month, and that was very enlightening. We heard a lot from our audiences during that time, and then we went to Delray Beach, and then bounced around the whole country
Wow, that's
doing like one
yeah.
nighters. And sometimes like we've sold out in all these 2,000 seat theaters in San Diego and San Francisco and, oh, I don't know, everywhere. I really, like, my brain can't hold on all the beautiful places, but yeah, 2 years.
That is so cool that you guys basically got your roots down in Florida.
Exactly. It's really unique. And people are always like, Florida, do they even know Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Forgive me. So come on out, Orlando. So tell me that you know her.
Absolutely. I could tell you Orlando definitely it does.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite part of the show?
Oh gosh, it really does change night after night because of, sometimes it feels more like a pep rally. Like, we've got a lot of college students and they want to hear about equal rights and they want to hear about same-sex marriage, and then sometimes it feels nostalgic, especially when we were in Delray. Her sister-in-law, like her Ruth's husband's family lives there. In fact, I should write them. And so they came to the show, and there were lots of people that went to her high school. There's this nostalgia. But I would say, for me, for sure, one of my favorite lines to do and to plant and then to really use as catalyst for the show is, what's the difference between a woman being a bookkeeper in New York's garment district or a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States? It's just one generation, because that supersedes all of it. To me, that supersedes gender, it supersedes religion, race. whatever you think of this person or that person. And it just gets to the heart of the matter. We're all in a process of evolution. Nothing stays the same. And so we can say, like, well, it's not good that people now have a say that didn't have a say. But it does, it is the truth of the matter. And if we deny the truth, then we're all in suffering, right? The Buddhist philosophy, we're all just going to be in suffering. So I love saying that line because I think that it sets an equality, an equalizer throughout the whole audience. So
Wow.
for me, that's what it is. It's the conversations, making the
Oh.
conversations more applicable.
I really like to hear that. You brought up something else. Have you met her family or have they seen the show?
In parts, not everybody, but her husband's side of the family has, and I've spent some time with her rabbi in DC. Oh, DC was really cool. So um, like Nina Totenberg and many people on her staff did come to the show, and that was really wild to be like on her own home court or something. But no, I haven't spent too much time. I've emailed with her daughter Jane a bit, and I'd love to be in touch with her granddaughter Clara. You know, so many people have seen the documentary, but yeah, there's still hope. It
Oh, that is really
must.
cool.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I was just going to say it must be hard to know that you have to mourn the loss of this person that was just your grandma or your mom in the wider sense of the who she was to the world. So
Absolutely, but even as like a grandma or mom, they probably she was probably very special to them, and they
yeah,
saw her in a whole different light that we don't get to see.
yes, right. And yet, they just called her Bubby. That's what I always called my grandma, Bubby. Just she was Bubby. To other people, I'm sure she was others, but to me, she was just Bubby.
Absolutely, I'm always always interested in people who make an impact and the family members they leave behind and that legacy and stuff and how
Brooke,
they
me
must feel.
too. Exactly. In fact, to that point, like you asked earlier, what are the challenges she dealt with? That she claims that her father-in-law said to her, "Listen, Ruth, you've got a new baby. You just started law school, and your husband, my son, just came down with testicular cancer. If you cannot continue law school, we get it. But if you do want to, we will be here for you. We will help you and get over yourself and go do it." And I just think of like all these moments that people know about her and correct. It's like, what must that have felt like to her daughter, 4 years old? What must that have felt like to her husband? All the things that we think about in terms of our own parents or family histories, and they had to do it in a very public and sacrificing way.
Absolutely, but that feels good to hear that she had like a village behind her.
She did. That's exactly right. She had a village. She knew when to ask for help and when to accept help, which I think is also another difficult legacy, especially for kids these days, like our 20-year-olds, to understand. My girls are never understanding that. Let's ask for help. It's not about doing it alone. Let's ask for help when we need it. Somebody's got a better answer than you.
Absolutely. I almost feel like when I was like in college, I thought I knew it all, but then like as I was going through college, I was like, wow, my mom was right all along.
Correct, right. Right. Or at least you're going to have the better answer for somebody. So allow somebody to give you one too. I've got this group that when our kids were little, we started this group called the Manifesting Mamas. And we met like, first of all, it was once a week, and we would listen to each other's ideas and hold each other accountable. But like this other show that I have written and performed on many times called From Baghdad to Brooklyn, when I was trying to understand how to piece together the stories of my ancestry, one of my friends, who's also my sister-in-law in this group, was like, "Wait, what about if you ask Dan Tater, who's a friend of ours who does audio-visual stuff, if he creates a sound system for you?" I'm like, "Yes." You know, like these little things that you wouldn't imagine. Or somebody else says, "Okay, and then I'll pick up your kids today so that you can go to rehearsal." All those things. So I really believe, like you're saying, in the power of community, and certainly in the power of women in community, because we're very good at multitasking.
Yes, exactly. Well, is there anything else you want to bring up about the show?
Oh, I really hope if you come, and I hope you stay after. I mean it. I love to meet people and just hear about your thoughts. Like where else would you like to go? Where else would you like to go with the conversation? And, you know, um, yeah, those kinds of things.
It sounds very, thought provoking, so I like to hear
No,
that.
good. Yes. It really is. And, especially again, not to delve too deep into politics, but to say it now, even after the very difficult election season we've been through and the interesting results of it. And I'd love to hear, does this still have a place? Where do we want her legacy to be? Do we want it to be only in the history books, or do we want to have it be a very dynamic and public thing that we're hearing from it and trying to incorporate in our day-to-day thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you guys are still at least trying to keep her story alive.
We sure are.
Well, again, all things equal will be at the Dr. Phillips Center this Sunday. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome, Brooke. Have a lovely day.
You too.
See you all. Thank you.